The Wheel of Time Season 3 demonstrated what made the title so appealing to Amazon in the first place, as a fantasy epic with vast political intrigue that could rival the scale of Game of Thrones. Since the prolific HBO series ended in 2019, studios have been buying up book rights to see what fictional universes could tell tales to match the political intrigue and ensemble character building that defined Game of Thrones. It's been attempted with Dune, The Witcher, and Lord of the Rings, but Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time books have always been the best bet. While The Wheel of Time doesn't have as widely recognizable an influence on shifting the norms of the fantasy genre as Game of Thrones, the 15-book series arguably has even more political intrigue, scheming, and various cultures and factions to explore than George R.R. Martin's world. It was the perfect candidate to offer the appeal streamers hoped for, but the first 2 seasons' initially mixed reviews set it back from reaching its potential. Season 3 was beginning to demonstrate the qualities they'd always hoped for, but The Wheel of Time was unfortunately cancelled on Friday, May 23, 2025. Wheel of Time Season 3 was beginning to demonstrate the show's political intrigue. The Shadow Rising is a pivot in Robert Jordan's books. First, some book context. If someone were to just read The Eye of the World and stop there, they might think, well, this seems a lot like Tolkien. With each book, the world expands, though, even by the end of The Dragon Reborn, the series can still feel like somewhat of a focused piece, following Rand on his hero's journey to defeat Ishamael, claim his sword, and fully embrace his place as the dragon. This is precisely what makes The Shadow Rising such a fan favorite, as it's a massive pivot in what Robert Jordan hoped to accomplish with his series. The Wheel of Time is recognized not only as an incredible fantasy story, but it also notably shattered the barriers set by The Lord of the Rings by extending beyond the norm of the trilogy. Once The Dragon Reborn is out of the way, Jordan begins to spin the story he always wanted to tell, a world-spanning fantasy epic that explores thousands of characters, and a plethora of cultures and nations, all of whom are affected by the coming threats. This sounds a lot more like Game of Thrones than the adventure shown in The Eye of the World. Amazon Prime Video's The Wheel of Time Season 3 was an adaptation of The Shadow Rising, and while there wasn't as much time in the 8-hour season to cover the ground Jordan was able to in a 385,000-word book, it was still a worthy glimpse at this potential. For the first time, Season 3 contained 4 separate storylines, all of which took place in varying parts of the world with vastly different cultures playing a role in the unfolding events. Season 3 offered intrigue, betrayals, and so many varying motivations that the web was becoming difficult to keep track of. Wheel of Time Season 3's reviews reflect the narrative shift. The Wheel of Time benefited from darker and more complex material. Rand Althor, Josh Stradowski, surrounded by his powers in The Wheel of Time Season 3 EP8. Image via Prime Video. It's been well documented that The Wheel of Time Season 3 was better received than the first 2. Personally, I wasn't a big fan of Seasons 1 and 2, and I couldn't believe how drastic the strides of improvement were going into the recent run. This is for multiple reasons. The production value took a notable leap, the writing quality, though still with its problems, was more oriented toward long-term narrative, and the focus on Rand and Moiraine, especially in episodes like The Road to the Spear, allowed The Wheel of Time cast's strongest actors to shine. That said, it can't be understated how much the narrative shift in Season 3 allowed the show to prosper. The Shadow Rising is when these books really begin to take their true form, and it's clear that elements like political intrigue, moral ambiguity, etc., appeal to contemporary audiences. The material with Rand, in particular, is some of the darkest and most appealing in the book saga. The Wheel of Time was on its way to becoming something special, or at least to becoming what Amazon wanted from the show to begin with.